importance of a graph is to paint the picture of the information being given to us. So another graph is what? Cumulative frequency curve, or maybe Ogive in some cases. So let's see how best we can use this cumulative frequency curve or Ogive to paint the information being given to us in a question form. So let's have a look at it. From the question, we are given a marks obtained by candidates in their exams, and then we have been asked to draw a cumulative frequency curve based on information being given. So one thing you have to pay attention to is that in cumulative frequency curve you need two things. Those two things are max less than, so we need this guy, max less than, and the cumulative frequency. So these are the two tools that we need to have at our disposal before we can draw a cumulative frequency curve. So without this max less than or a cumulative frequency, we cannot do that. So in this video I'll demonstrate how you can get the max less than and as well as the cumulative frequency to draw the curve. Now let's have a look at, we are having a max obtained by people between what that is 0 to 9. So a max from 0 to 9, how many are they? So they are 8, right? So the frequency here tells you that the number of people who obtain this max. Okay, so from 0 to 9 we are having what? 8 people. Then 10 to 19 we are having 10 people do that. Then 20 to 29, then we are having what? 14. And then 30 to 39 we are having 28, and so on and so forth, right? And so on and so forth. Okay, now how do you get a max less than? So how do you get it? Because we know that for us to draw the curve, the cumulative curve, you need max less than and what? Cumulative frequency. So let's talk about a max less than. For you to get this max less than, then you have to come to the max, right? The intervals being given to you. So look at this guy here. This guy here is what? This guy, the last number in the first class here is what? Is 9, right? So the immediate grouping number here is what? 10. Is that okay? Look at the last person, the last max here, and the first mark in just the immediate class interval, right? So here we are having 9, then here we are having what? 10. So you have to take the difference between the two. What I mean by the difference is that 10 minus what? 9, right? So 10 minus 9, that should be what? 1. Is that okay? So this is what I'm talking about. So 10 minus what? 9. So that the answer should be what? 1. And then you divide that by 2, right? You divide that by 2. Maybe in my opinion, since you are dealing with ranging from 0 to 9, 10 to 19, so on and so forth, so maybe you have to divide that by 2, right? So okay, that is the idea. So whatever you get after subtracting, you just need to divide that by 2. Then the answer to this one will 0.5, right? So 0.5. Then that 0.5 you are going to carry along this 0.5, right? So the 0.5, what are you going to do with the 0.5? You use the 0.5 to add to what? You add that to all the outer marks. So what I mean the outer marks here, so 9, 19, 20, 29, 39, 49, 59, right? We are going to add the 0.5 to what? These guys. So we don't necessarily care about the lower, right? We don't necessarily care about this. Is that okay? So this is how you find your max less than. After subtracting this from that, you divide that by 2. The answer that you get, then you add that answer to the outer, right? The big boys at the back. That is just a scenario. Okay, so you can see that here we are having what? 9.5, and then 90.5, and 29.5, 39.5, and so on and so forth. So you have to do for all the intervals, right? So this is how easy you get to your max less than. Okay, now you got 1, 2. What about the second one? The second 2 is what? The cumulative frequency, right? So how do you get your cumulative frequency? As the name suggests, we are going to what? Accumulate. We are going to add everything. We are going to add all what? The frequencies step by step. So how do you do that? You do that, you look at the first frequency. The first frequency is what? Is 8, right? So the first frequency is 8, and then that's why I'm having my 8 here. So how do you get the next one? So the next one, for you to get the next frequency or the cumulative frequency, you have to add this plus that, right? So this plus that should be what? 8 plus 10, right? 8 plus 10 will give me what? The next line. So 8 plus 10 will be what? 18. That's how I got the 18 here, right? For you to move on, we are accumulating, right? We are accumulating step by step. Now 18 plus what? What is the next line? So here we got 18, right? So 18 plus what? 14, right? So 18 plus 14, that should be what? 32, right? That should be what? 32. And then 32 plus what? 28, that will be what? 60. And so on and so forth. So that is how you keep on adding, right? You add till you arrive at the final answer. So for you to get a final answer, also here we had 59 at this stage. So 59 plus what? Plus what? The last percent, which is 1. That's how we got to 160. Okay, so this is how easy you get your cumulative frequencies and what, as well as what, the max less than. Now we are free to go. Since we have our tools available, we are free to move on. So we have the max less than as well as the cumulative frequencies. So now we can proceed and draw our graph. So let's see how we can draw the graph. This is my beautiful graph here. So let's see how to plot the points on the graph sheet. Maybe your graph sheet may be a little bit different from mine. That doesn't necessarily the case. All that matters is what, understanding. Okay, now that we have the max less than as well as the cumulative frequency, it's our duty to know where exactly you have to put them on the graph sheet. So on the graph sheet, you have at the down here what, your max less than, right? So the max less than are the down here, right? They are on these axes. So what I mean by these are you can call it and the x-axis. So the most important thing is that the max less than are down here, and then the cumulative frequencies are on these axes, right? So these axes are the cumulative frequency. Call it the y-axis. Now what about the number? With the max less than, we just need to start with the first max less than, that is 9.5, and then move on to the next one to go 90.5 and then 29.5. The most important thing is that you have to make sure that everybody is available on the graph, right? Everybody is available. So as you can see, that starts from 9.5 and then we end at 99.5, right? So everybody is available. That is okay. So the same thing applies to what these axes here. So you have the smallest number among them is 8, and then the largest among them is 160. You just have to check how best you can do the numbering here, right? So I'm going for this, the bigger ball, that's 2 centimeters is equal to 20, right? The reason is that if I go for 10, maybe I will not get everybody, right? I will not get everybody available. So maybe I decided to go for 20 from 0 to 20, then 40, 60, 80. The reason is that so that I can have everybody within the range, right? So you can see that the last number is 200, right? So 200, within the 200 I can get 160, and then below down here too, that is 20 here. Below there you can see I have some spaces here, so meaning I can get out of 80 here, right? Okay, now let's see the plotting. So we are going to plot the max less than against the cumulative frequency. The first max less than is 9.8, right? Sorry, 9.5. 9.5 is against 8. That is the cumulative frequency from the table that we are having. Is that okay? So you can see from here that you can see from this guy that 9.5 goes for 8, right? And then 90.5 go for 18, and then 29.5 go for 32, and so on and so forth. So this is how you have to plot the simple points on your graph, right? Okay, so 9.5 go for 8. You see, for you to get this subdivisions here, just look at the biggest interval. What I mean by the interval is to consider the intervals here 20, right? So 0 to 20, so 20 to 40, 40 to 60. So the interval is 20, right? So how do you get the smallest number? You just have to pick the bigger one. That's also 20, right? 20, then we divide that by the smallest subdivisions. So how many subdivisions are 10? Is 10, right? So when you divide this by 10, that should be 2, right? So the 2 here tells you that each subdivision is 2. Is that okay? Each subdivision is 2, so you can just count. So looking for 8, that will be 4, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 4, 6, and then 8, because each subdivision is 2. Okay, so the 8 is just here, so 90.5 against 18 will just be below the 20, and then 29.5 against 32. So 32, you consider 30 is on this line, and then 32 will just be one line. So this is how simple you plot the rest of the points on your graph sheet, right? So that will have a very nice, beautiful graph there. Is that okay? Okay, now what do you do? What do you do next? Then the next step is to join all the points together. So how do you join the point? We don't need a rule to do this. We just need a free hand, right? A free sketch. So from this line to what? To the point here, right? Just a free sketch from here to that, and then from that to that, right? And so on and so forth. So this is how simple you have to draw your graph. After joining all your points, you should have something that looks similar to my graph, right? So your graph should look like something of this nature. Okay, so perfect. Now let's answer the questions that follow. The next question says that you should use your graph to find the interquartile range of what the marks or the distribution, right? So how do you get the interquartile range? So the interquartile range here, you have to make sure that you pay attention to exactly what this guy is, or who exactly is what an interquartile range, right? The interquartile. The next question says that you should use your graph to determine the interquartile range, right? What is an interquartile range? So the interquartile range here is of the upper quartile minus the lower quartile. So you need to know this guy. We need to know the interquartile range as well as the upper quartile and the lower quartile, right? So the definitions of the interquartile is the upper quartile minus the lower quartile. So we don't know the upper quartile, we don't know the lower quartile. So here is the upper quartile is 3/4. You see, quarter means when we quarter of something, right? So the upper quartile is 3/4, the upper. So it has been divided into 4. So the biggest among all of them is 3, right? So the upper quartile will be 3/4 multiplied by the summations of all the frequencies. So meaning that we should add all the frequencies, then we multiply by that 3/4, right? So the summation of the frequency, you just need to sum up all the frequencies together. Remember, they say the frequency that should be what 8 plus 10 plus 14 plus 28 plus 46, 25, and so on to the last person, right? So then you multiply that by what 3/4 minus the lower quartile. So the small boys among all the quartile is 1, right? So 1/4 multiplied by what the summations of the frequency. Is that okay? So the difference between the two gives us what the interquartile, right? So how do you get this? So that is what 3/4 multiplied by, when you sum all the frequencies together, you should get what 160, right? So 3/4 multiplied by 160 minus what 1/4 multiplied by what 160, right? So this one will give me the lower quartile, and then this one will give me the upper quartile, right? So what is the answer to that? So the answer to that, when you multiply that should give you 120. I decided to bring 120th person for you to get a better understanding that we are multiplying. What are these? Are the people that participated in the exams, right? So when you multiply 3/4 by this guy, we still get a human being. Is that okay? Not a marks. So you have to use your graph to determine the marks that these people obtain. So when 3/4 multiplied by 160, that should give you 120th person, right? Or 120th position. So which person, what is the mass of this person? That is what you have to use the graph to determine, right? Okay, the same thing applies to this one. So for the lower quartile, when you know that you can get 40th person. What I mean by the person is the 40th position. So who obtained the 40th position is exactly what you have to use your graph to determine. So remember, the difference between the two will give us what the interquartile range. The question says that you should use your graph to determine that. So let's use the graph to obtain the max of this guy as well as the mass of this guy, and then we subtract the two to get the interquartile range. So let's have a look at how we can use the graph to determine the lower quartile as well as the upper quartile. So after the calculation, we have the lower quartile to be what 40. So you have the 40 over here. So the 40 here, this is the 40, right? Remember I said it's the 40th person. So those are the person, the frequencies, right? So you have to stand here. This is the 40, and then you trace that to what to the graph or to the curve, right? You have to trace that to the curve, right? Trace that. Once you meet the curve, right? Have you seen what is happening? So we are on a 40. So this is the lower quartile. So lower quartile. So once you meet the curve, then you drop that and go and look for the max of that person, right? So the 40th person or the 40th position is what by what max? So the max here, then you need to go down because the max are on this as the max are here. So let's go and look at the max, right? So you just have to trace down step by step. Then you read the max here. Is that okay? So this is how simple you find what the lower quartile. So the same process applies to the upper quartile. So this is the lower quartile. So what is the marks here? So you just need to read the marks here. Someone will be asking, how can you read the marks here? So the same approach, you have to look for the biggest interval among 2 points. So that is 10, right? The difference between the is 10. So what's the small divisions of bosses over here? So we are having 10 here. So 10 divided by 10 is 1. Just that one small boss is 1. So you have to just keep on adding. So 29.5 plus 1 2 3 4. So 29.5 plus 4, right? So then you write your answer down. Maybe yours might be a little bit different from mine. This is just an approximation, right? It's okay, don't worry too much about that. Okay, so when you do your calculation perfectly, you should have the lower quartile to be 3.25, right, from my assumption. Is that okay? So yours can be a little bit different. Don't worry, this is just an approximation, right? Okay, now let's look for the upper quartile. So the upper quartile, you had out to be 120, right? 120th person or 120th position. So this is 120 here. So let's go and look for the marks that person obtains, right? So let's look for the marks that person obtains. So this is the marks. So we are tracing to the curve to go and locate the marks. Is that okay? You are tracing to the point to go and locate the marks here. So you consider here, you drop down. So once you meet the curve, then you go down, right? You just need to go down because we are going to look for the marks. Okay, so now that we have their corresponding marks, so this is the lower quartile as well as the upper quartile. Then we can go on and find the interquartile range. So it's the difference between the two, right? So the upper quartile I had 54.5 and then minus 32.5. That should be 32.0. So this is the interquartile range. Okay. The next question says that we should find the percentage of people who obtain at least 65 marks, right? Those who score at least 65, meaning that from 65 and above, right? So we are still using the graph. So it's your duty, you just have to locate where the 65 is. So this is 59.5, and then you know that one subdivision is just 1. So how many do you have to add to this one to get a 65? So this is somewhere at this portion here, right? So this is somewhere at this portion. So what you have to do here is that you have to trace up. This is the marks. So how many people at least? You are looking for people, right? So this is the marks. So you just need to trace this upward and then go and meet the curve. Once you meet the curve, then you turn to the frequency axis, right? So that's where the people are. Is that okay? So you just need to walk like this on this line to meet the curve. Once you meet the curve, then you trace back to where exactly the people are. So you meet the curve at this point, right? So you just need to go to the people's axis. What I mean by the people is the frequency axis. So where is the frequency? So we are going to trace that, right? So you trace out to this line, and so what is the number here? Here is 40, right? They say at least 65 marks. So meaning that from 65 upward, right? From 65 upward. But we know that we are going to add out 160 because the total number of candidates that participated in the exams are 160, right? So from here to here, we just need to calculate that. So how many people are from here to here? So in this case, they are 20. Can you see that? So that minus that will give me 20 because the question says from 65 marks upward, right? At least 65. So 65 upward. So here is the people who score 65 and then upward. So where are we going to? We are going to end at 160. So the difference between the two 20, right? The difference between the two. So 20 people score at least 65 more. But remember they say percentage. So how do you calculate that percentage? So that should give you 20 divided by the total number of people who took the exam. That is 160, right? So multiply by 100. So this is what will give you the candidate who score at least 65 marks. Okay, so just do this calculation and then leave your answer in the comment section below. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, like the video, and then you may subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. So thank you for watching this.